Hello, dear people. So, I was thinking this morning about gods and angels and demons, and how there is reference about gods and angels and demons across several cultures, across several religions. And I was thinking that the Hindu version of gods, Hindus are called as, are referred to as polytheistic, whereas the Christians and the Muslim community are referred to as monotheistic, yeah, one God. And then there is versions of, and there are segregations, yeah, subclasses within each religion, depending on if you refer to the idea of God as visible, like an idol, or invisible, as in, okay, it's a divine form. So you have, from what I understand, you have the Protestant groups, and then there is in the Muslims there may be the Sufi versions of it, yeah, where they are referring to a presence, but not quite giving it an idol form. And then I was thinking in comparison to the Hindu version. Now I'm trying to understand life. I'm trying to understand how our different ways of thinking have emerged and how our different ways of thinkings are, what are our belief systems that gives rise to the nature of reality that we have. Now I have the nature of reality based on the conditioning that I've come from, yeah, based on the religious beliefs I have, or the beliefs generally. Some of them are religious in nature, some of them are spiritual in nature, some of them are naturalistic, related to how we relate to nature and ourselves. So our belief systems all come from there. So I'm examining life from what I can see, and I'm from the Hindu religion, so I was comparing the different ideas of gods and angels and demons across several religions. And in the Hindu system, I realized that in the course of my own understanding, in the course of the evolution of my own understanding of the self and how a person comes to be, and what this idea of ascension means, how do we realistically, in terms of logic, if we consider it to be a kind of a social science, I was thinking, how do we logically understand what ascension means, what people are calling as ascension? And in those terms, when I think about the idea of gods and angels and demons, the idea of God in the Hindu mythology, and it also may be true for others, but it may not be being seen in those lights. Perhaps there has been certain perceptions, certain ways of thinking which have not really developed, or has not been thought about, and hence they exist. Maybe they're called as archangels, or they're called as several forms of elevated levels of goodness, and then the supreme may be called as God. Yeah. Whereas in the Hindu system, from what I can see, the reference is to virtues. Now, different people, they live life by a certain kind of a perseverance, a certain kind of consistency and integrity, and they keep being that. Yeah, and then they come to a point where that which they have been practicing becomes a virtue by itself. It becomes a benchmark by itself. And then those people, those forms, are given the title of a god, as in they are now, they have now embodied that virtue to such an extent that they can be reliably, consistently expected to be that. Okay? It's like we have the idea of a Xerox, or we have the idea of what do we have? We have different kinds of things we use. I'll refer to the Xerox. Now, the Xerox is a photocopier basically, but it's a machine that has so consistently performed it's functioned so much over time that we no longer call that machine as a photocopier. We call it the Xerox. It's become, the name has become synonymous with what it's standing by. Yeah. So similarly, people who stand by a certain set of values consistently, we no longer refer to all of those list of virtues, all of those things that they stand by, but we just call them by that name. And then it's like Rocky, what's his name? Sylvester Stallone. He played the role of Rocky, and now when we say Rocky, we cannot. I mean, we can refer to anybody, but when we talk of it as a character, as a virtue in itself, in some ways, Sylvester Stallone is kind of related to that. So your work becomes you. Yeah, you are it. So to that extent, you're the god of it. So when I think in those terms, the idea of Shiva or the idea of a Vishnu or the idea of a Brahma is a person who's consistently stood by a certain kind of value, so much so that that symbol is now representative of that virtue. Instead of calling it by all the several names, just call it by one name. So we have the idea of a polytheism, maybe the idea of many gods in this way. So as a Hindu, the benefit I see from that is, now it's like growing up by, you do this rock climbing, no? When you do rock climbing, you hold on to one crevice somewhere, and then you pull yourself up to it. Yeah, you pull yourself up to a level, and then you maybe place your feet on another crevice, in another place, on another rock or a branch or something, and then you pull yourself up. So the advantage of polytheism, the way I'm seeing it, is I can hold on to, okay, now this God, beautiful virtue, I like that virtue, what this person stands by. And then I hold on to it so much that I pull myself up in mind, body, spirit, energy, so that I have a certain character by which I can stand by. It's like I'm growing mice. I'm becoming a person of virtue and character. I'm developing a spine, so to speak, by whom you can call them as iconic. Yeah, what or who is the icon that I most relate with, and then what I would like to have traits like. What you see, you kind of become. So you have posters around in your rooms. You may have whatever icons you have, or you could put all of these pictures of different things, and then over a period of time, you kind of become that kind of person. So it's about a choice on what you would like to become, what inspires you, and what you want to become in life. And some do it consciously, some do it unconsciously. If you're doing it unconsciously, you just become whatever you see. Yeah. If you're doing this consciously, you can kind of engineer the kind of person you want to become. So I do have these many virtuous, in Hindu terms we call them as gods. Yeah, so I have these different symbols, different virtuous people, and I can keep referring to them. We have the Durga, we have different versions of the female goddesses and male gods, and then I can become that, kind of develop a character trait which is commendable. Yeah, and then I become the person who's a combination of these different things that I watch for, and that's how you sort of do this rock climbing. What I call as ascension would be becoming a better person, becoming a better version of yourself. So I thought it's kind of, for me, this gives reason and meaning. And then I have also other religions to compare. I have the Christian faith. So we have and about the idea of the angels and demons, I was thinking, it's like the different shadows of light. When you're seeing a person from a nice light, they turn to be, you may call them as, all good people. Now the devil, Satan, is said to be a fallen angel. He was an angel, right? And he did something which was not in accordance with what was expected, or did something differently. And hence, now this person is called to referred to as Satan, as a form of a demon, apparently. So I was thinking it's a shadow of light. Yeah, you're seeing things by the light, you see one form, the same people. You're seeing it by the dark, you see the same people as bad people. So I was thinking the idea of friend and foe is again perspective. So angels and demons make sense to me that way. See, this gives you thought, gives you pause, and gives you reason by which to become a better person. Yeah, thank you.